Khorne here, and today I'll share why I avoid recruiting certain units for the Skaven, Beastmen, Doom Kings and Chaos Dwarfs. Now, again, I'm not saying you should never recruit these units, but these are the units I personally avoid recruiting because I find there to be better alternatives. Now, when considering the Skaven, I won't be taking into consideration any unique faction mechanics or bonuses various Skaven factions have. So, regarding the Skaven, they have a diverse roster with many redundant units and upkeep cost issues. The upkeep cost for Skaven slave units hasn't changed from Warhammer 2 to Warhammer 3, but the effectiveness of clan rats has increased. In Warhammer 2, Skaven slaves and clan rats were essentially the same unit due to AI cheats, making Skaven slaves a better choice due to their lower cost. Because of this reason, during Warhammer 2's lifetime, they got a massive price increase. However, clan rats have become much more effective in Warhammer 3, while Skaven slaves stayed completely the same. Other Skaven infantry units are, in my opinion, relatively expensive for what they provide. Plague monks, triads, death runners and especially stormvermin are, in my view, not worth the cost. In my perspective, the main use for Skaven infantry is to eat bullets from your own gun line, and having high value infantry that lowers your balance of power is counterintuitive. Moreover, many of these melee infantry units require multiple turns to recruit, as much as units that vastly outperform them. The Skaven have numerous monstrous units, but in my opinion, very few are actually good. Mutant rat ogres, and hellpit abominations are either redundant or underwhelming. Rat ogres in particular are, in my opinion, the weakest unit in the Skaven roster. They have low health, low armor, low damage potential, and are generally ineffective. Mutant rat ogres and hellpit abominations have similar issues. They serve an anti-large role, but neither can outperform rattling guns or Jezzails. These units are also expensive and take multiple turns to recruit, whereas rattlings and Jezzails take just one turn and have less than half the upkeep cost. Finally, we have Doom Wheels and Doom Flayers, and as much as it pains me not to recruit these units, especially the Doom Wheel, considering how amazing they look, I've realized their limitations. They take 2 turns to recruit, the same as Doom Flayers, have a high balance of power, low health and low mass, making them easily stuck in enemy infantry and vulnerable to enemy missiles. Doom Flayers are, in my opinion, an ineffective unit as well, and I've never found them to be useful in my armies, primarily due to their lengthy recruit time and high upkeep cost. If you're enjoying the video thus far, please consider subscribing for future content. Now back to the video. Now when it comes to Doom Kings, Beastmen and Chaos Dwarfs, their unit recruitment methods are different from other races, which is why I've combined them in this video. For the Doom Kings, they increase their unit capacity by building up military infrastructure or by leveling up necrotechs for increasing the capacity of constructs. Since Doom King units are free, my opinion on why I don't recruit them is based on their performance in battle and the convenience of increasing their capacity. I don't recruit Skeleton Horsemen, both melee and ranged versions, Skeleton Swordsmen and Carrion due to their poor performance. They struggle to deal with enemies effectively and are much weaker compared to other Doom King units. Basic spears are often a better choice. Direwolves, available if you're playing as Archon, are also superior to Carrion and Skeleton Horsemen in a similar role. And if you aren't playing Archon, Chariots and Nehekarak Horsemen do a much better job as well. In the case of Ushabti, you can increase their capacity by 1 melee variant for a tier 2 building and 1 ranged for a tier 3 building. This is a problem because it uses up a building slot that could be used better. The building for recruiting infantry and chariots give you many more units than the building for Ushabtis, and since you do not pay for any of your units, the more unit capacity you can increase, the better. 2 Ushabti units just don't outperform 4 chariots and a catapult or 13 infantry units. Necrotechs can also increase their capacity, but they do so in a line where they increase the capacity of Scorpions and Necropolis Knights, which are units leagues above Ushabti. Now when it comes to higher titans, it is a similar issue as Ushabti. They just don't outperform Necrosphinxes or War Sphinxes for me to either build up their capacity in settlements or increase it with Necrotects. As for the Beastmen, they function similarly to Tomb Kings. Their units are free, but increasing their unit capacity requires spending Dread. This setup makes it easier to identify units I don't want in my army. The majority of the Beastmen roster consists of fast moving units that deal decent damage. Since Dread can be scarce, I usually save up for better performing units. Units I never increase the capacity of include Razorgore Herd and Chaos Warhounds, Manticores and Harpies, Zangors, Giants and Chaos Spawn. Giants and Chaos Spawn are also slow and vulnerable to missiles, making them less effective in the Beastmen roster. The only thing that I am sad about with this list is the fact that Zangors can only be increased by 1 capacity for the same price as Gore Herds that can be increased by 4, which will just see me never increasing their capacity, as I would much rather have superior numbers. Finally, for the Chaos Dwarfs, it is a bit different, as they do pay for their units. Now I won't be taking into consideration the manufacturing upgrades, as I rarely find myself needing to increase the fighting ability of my units. And if I were to take it into consideration, then every Chaos Dwarf unit would be the best unit in the game. The Chaos Dwarf units will also often share their unit capacity, so I will also be judging them on which units I would rather have. So the units I don't recruit are Skullcrackers, Iron Demons, Deathshriek Rockets, and the units I don't increase the capacity of are Great Taurus, Lamassu, and Kadai Destroyers. When it comes to Iron Demons and Skullcrackers, I feel like they are completely unnecessary units in terms of unit capacity, when there are much better options available. Not to mention you can recruit them with a Dreadquake Mortar attached, which, even though it takes up 2 capacity, is well worth it. Deathshriek Rockets are actually quite weak in my opinion, as they are basically a single model Eagle Claw ball thrower. Great Taurus and Lamassu, in my opinion, are not worth investing armaments in. And finally, Kadai Destroyers are not worth their investment in armaments, as they cost an insane amount to increase the capacity of and have a redundant role in your armies. They are best suited as an anti-large unit, but that role is already occupied by Fireglaves and Blunderbusses, which are cheaper to upgrade the capacity of and cheaper to maintain. Kadai Destroyers are also very vulnerable to missile units, so if you ever want them to perform well, you will have to create a Doomstack of them, which will require a massive investment and can even stifle your campaign growth to meet it. These are the units I avoid recruiting in my campaigns. Do you agree with my choices, or do you have some of your own? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching, and until next time.